Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. It's a real pleasure to be able to introduce you to Jeroen. Jeroen van Hasselt is the visionary mind behind Entourage and Demise of the Grises, which is a 200-minute-long, award-winning, multi-immersive game experience, which I've played twice and is incredible. And among many creative projects, he's really carving a niche in immersive game design. So today, Jeroen is going to deep dive into that world and tell us all about the intricacies and the things that he's learned in designing these incredible experiences. So I'm sure there'll be lots for us to learn. So everyone, please welcome Jeroen. Thank you.
So they asked me to talk about Demise of the Grises, our 200-minute experience, and then I thought, okay, it's such a different game. Maybe I should. How am I going to do this? It's 200 minutes. There's so much to talk about. We spent 3 years building it. I can never get into all of it. So I'm just going to take you along for the journey, how we got there. My name is Jeroen van Hasselt. I'm the creative director and game designer. I've won awards among multiple industries, video games, reality TV programs, and escape experiences. And I started my journey as a video game designer, that's me, in the Utrecht University of the Arts. And I did my thesis and master's about horror. So that was a thing that I really loved. And created our first horror game, launched it on several platforms, still as students. We had investors from famous indie developers. We won awards. We got many recognition onto all kinds of publications. And because we were creating such a novel thing, but also being students, we were overly ambitious. And we kind of went a little bit too far in terms of our technical things that we could do or could not do. So this game totally flopped. It was, it didn't do very well, didn't really land when it launched. But it did open doors for us because we were still students and we already had launched our first own game. And it landed me a job in the USA. I started working for another creative director, and that taught me two things. The first thing he told me was, Jeroen, you gotta lose your ego. You gotta stop being the guy that thinks that he has to come up with all the ideas. So he kicked my ego out, and he told me like, okay, if you wanna be a creative director, you have to make sure that you create a vision that your whole team understands, and that everybody in your team can chime in and come up with ideas that can contribute towards your vision. And you just have to make sure that you recognize those ideas. And then the second thing I learned is building a Metroidvania. I don't know, does anybody know this term, a Metroidvania? Can I see some hands? Just a couple. Oh, actually more than I expected. So that's a genre in video games. And I'll come back to that. I'll look back to that because that's a part of the design philosophy of Demise of the Grises. Now, I'm not just a video game designer and horror. I also love traveling. I love cooking food. And I love my reality dating shows. So just to show you, I'm not just about the horror. And what I did in my free time a lot was building adventures for my friends. And this was a time when we still didn't have much responsibilities. I could just call my friends on the phone. I'll be like, hey, man. He's like, yo, what's up? I'll just tell him, like, hey, are you ready? And they'll say, ready. Ready what for? Well, for the adventure. What are you talking about? What adventure? Well, if you want to know, you got to be at this location on this time, and then you'll find out. That's the only way. And this actually worked, which was beautiful because, we were still young. We had no responsibilities. They showed up. We had the most amazing adventures. And during one of those adventures, a friend of mine joined who was really working the daily grind. He had a job as a lawyer, one of the big 3 companies. He was stuck in the daily grind. Every day looked kind of the same for him. And he joined. He showed up one time because he heard these amazing stories. And he wanted to have that one time. And we spent the whole night. We did all these crazy things during the night. And the sun was rising. And he went away from the group for a while. And he was standing there. I saw him a little bit down. So I went towards him and asked him, hey, what's up? What's going on? He had a bit of watery eyes. And he told me, like, this morning I stood up and I had the exact idea of how my day was going to look like. And you totally flipped that script. That my day totally went in a different direction. And for the first time in a long time, I feel alive again. He felt freedom, he felt control, that he could do something different with his day, and it made such an impact on him, he urged me to do something with that. And that touched me, obviously, because as a creator or an artist or designer, you want to create things that make impact. But to me, I really thought about, okay, what was that thing then? What did I do that made such an impact on him? And that became kind of the core philosophy of everything that we try to design. Because if you want to make an impact on someone that sticks with them, if you think back, most things that make an impact is something novel, something you've never done before, or something you do for the first time, or something that's scary, or something where you have to push your boundaries. And if you can get from that experience a story that you can share with others, because you have been a part of this story, you have done something in this, or you were the hero or a big contributor, that works as a multiplier on your memory to leave a lasting impression that you can get joy from for years to come. Because if you think back, you'll think back of the cool experiences you've done in your life. So I decided to make a switch. I tried to switch from video games to real-life games. Worked for some companies, maybe some of you know them, did some client work, consultant work, and then came this rare opportunity. I got approached by someone which turned about Tim. Tim is my future business partner. We'll introduce him later. He said, we have an abandoned hospital, and we can build an experience here. And I don't know about you guys, but an abandoned hospital to me sounds like a perfect place to build a horror game. So that turned out to be I Can Hear You, and we built this real-life horror game. It was really like a video game, but then in real life, so forget the digital aspect. But maybe I should just show you a little bit how it looked.
This is Jonathan, reporting for the Red Eye on a case of the abandoned hospital in Belgium. Our research led us to a disturbing case. But things appear to be far worse than we ever could have imagined. I fear we might not make it out alive.
It's like he kept a record of everything. I still don't understand what he's doing. Maybe we've been asking the wrong questions.
We need to press further. We've tried to get into his mind. All the pieces are here, but it appears the mad doctor has taken precautions to keep anyone from getting into that room. The horrors we discovered here, what he has done, there's no return from that.
I can't take it anymore.
We need to keep going.
I'm leaving. Right now!
I'm warning you. You must not cross.
Thank you very much. That is an impression of what this game was about, because unfortunately the hospital got demolished, so this project does not exist anymore. But it did make me meet Tim, which is my business partner. He's in the room. He'll come later on stage for a live demonstration of some of the tech for our new game. And together we formed Entourage for I Can Hear You, which was a big success for its running time. But we also do a lot of other stuff. Just to give you a bit show on that, we do always do game design, but like I said, also for TV programs. One program is called Destination X. It's actually been sold to multiple countries. BBC just did a run on September filming it, so it should be somewhere next year on television. It's an adventurous TV program where contestants have to guess where they are in Europe. Another program we did for Amazon Prime, which is the biggest Dutch television program for Amazon Prime. It's like let's say a Squid Game version of hide and seek. Also, we did all the game design, the tech, and even the outfits for the contestants. And another real-life horror game we built, actually together with Alex from Logic Lux and Amsterdam Catacombs fame, as well as Maggie Pepelenova, if I pronounce it correctly, who's a great designer. We built The Nightmare of Evelyn Shadow, a real-life horror game that took place in the Marriott Hotel of Amsterdam during COVID times, because they had a whole wing that we could use that was not available. I'm going to skip this bit. But I want to show you that in this game, it felt like you were part of a horror story. You felt you were written into a book. And then we finally come to the Demise of the Greiser. That's our third real-life horror game. But before we get there, I do want to say, to explain that we feel that we have a different take on creating games in terms of its industry. We really feel that we're building a video game, but then in real life. And we start with concepting the actual game mechanics that makes the player look differently to their surroundings. So we try to create a gameplay loop that's fun for extended time, but also something that you can get better at. So you get harder challenges over the game, and you get better, and then learn from it and probably become more skilled at the game itself. To illustrate for what I feel is an escape room structure, roughly so it grew from escaping through a room through puzzles, and I think that legacy is still prevailing. I mean, escape rooms would say maybe, okay, I have a break-in room, but that still is because you change the structure of that basic escape room structure. And it provides, what it's very good at, a different puzzle or a different challenge every time. It's a lot of variance in there. But there's no gameplay loop as far as I can tell, and there's a general trend that once you've completed an escape room, you feel you've seen everything that was to that escape room to it. You feel like you've completed everything. Now, what differs from our real-life game structure that I feel is essential to understand what we've been building. Now, you come into a game and you don't know what to expect. I think that's kind of similar. And you have a mission to solve, but you learn everything on how to play that game inside the game itself. You have an immersive tutorial that you have to succeed. And if you don't succeed at the tutorial, you cannot play the game. You cannot progress any further. And gradually, during the gameplay will get more difficult and challenging, depending on how you grow through it. So that's the difference in, I believe, that structure. Now, how did it get started? This is the site at the beginning. There was an empty hangar, there were some trains outside, and we were very, very lucky that somebody at the municipality played our previous game, I Can Hear You, and there were some horror fanatics, and they just said, yo, we got this space, can you build the same game over here? And we said, yeah, we can, but we rather build something new and unique. So started with a big hangar, and we thought, okay, it was empty, so we could pick our own trains, which was lovely. We could okay, we picked the ones that had the most space in it, that we can actually build stuff in it. And there was one train that's actually driving, shown here, that we used the locomotive to drive the wagons inside. I won't show you the whole process because it's a very long video. And then, okay, what are we going to make here? And now I come back to that creative director that told me, okay, you have to make a vision that everybody understands. So we bottled it down to 3 design pillars that this game was going to be about. And those 3 pillars being, 1, we knew we were going to build a horror game. So we didn't know how yet, how we're going to combine trains with horror, but we're going to build a horror game. We're also going to do something with trains. I mean, it seems obvious. We have these trains. We should do something with them, not just in terms of the story, but also with the gameplay and the mechanics. And we knew, as we wanted to try something new, we really wanted to build the feeling of a world, that there was an open structure, that you could explore a little bit more freely. That gradually grew through, okay, trains. We want to build a unique mechanic about trains. The feeling of a small world, that was a sentence that came back. It has to feel like you're really exploring a small world. And the real-life horror game, that we felt, okay, that we got covered. We know how to build this now. We have done this now before. Like I said, we start with the mechanics. So what is it that you actually should do in this game? And to us, that process starts with, okay, we want to do something with trains, but what is a train? What is a train on an abstract level? And we came to this definition. A train is a transport vehicle that is limited in its freedom because it's attached to rails. That's the unique thing about a train, because cars, planes, they're free to move, but a train is always attached to the rails. Okay, what kind of game ideas can we come up with? And we prototyped a lot of different things, building tracks, getting lines, and then Tim actually came with the great idea of what if we limit the movement of the players in the same way like a train? What if we attach the players to tracks? What if we attach the players to tracks or lines that they have to follow, and that's the start of a game? I was like, okay, let's test it, let's prototype it. I'm not sure if you can see it on this picture, but we have like a lot of red ropes. We put the whole hangar full of red ropes that you had to follow and clip on and attach to. We assured there was power there. We made it dark. We put some lights up. We used blankets and duvets for walls. Like, okay, we should put a wall here and a wall there. Make it as basic as possible because we had no idea if this was going to be fun or not. So you have to basically prototype it at the basic level. And the results were good. There was a 45-minute playtest just of the gameplay and the gameplay loop. Just simple missions. You had to find a key and find something and get out. But people found the gameplay already very original. But more importantly, after the playtest, they wanted to play again because they felt they got better at it. They felt they could improve and do different things the next time around. That was very encouraging. So we gave the go-ahead. We're like, okay, let's build this. Let's make this professional. Let's not use red ropes anymore, but make it like true steel cables and build like a clipping system. But I will get back to it later because we're going to do a live demonstration of that. Then the second thing, the world. We wanted to create a world. Now, this was new to us. I mean, I had some experience from video games building a world, but how do you do this in real life? Luckily, the beginning is the same. You start with research. You do a lot of research about trains, I was playing training simulators, I was reading about things, and then I came across something called Greisers. And if you paid attention, that's part of the title, Demise of the Greisers. And Greisers is actually something that originated here in England and the UK in the 60s, and they were train fanatics. And some of them were a little bit too fanatical, some petty crimes, but there was this mocking article that the Greisers were disappearing. You can still find it in the newspaper. And it said, like, we should put a Greiser in the zoo so we can study it. And that's pretty disturbing. Like, I don't think we can do that now anymore. But it did give me, like, there's something there, Maybe we can start that off for a fiction. So I took those railway enthusiasts from the past. And then from there on, 60 years ago, that's a long time. So that leaves a lot of room to build your own fiction. And really put it central. Okay, what can we make these Greisers look like? But also, what are the beliefs of these Greisers? If the Greisers think trains are the most important thing, what consequences would that lead to? What choices would they make? And how can it lead to, because we knew we were going to make a horror game, how can we make it very extreme and build this cult around it? So we created like a more than 40-page document of this world building, how it went. And I think it speaks for itself, but world building is very important if you want to create a world, because it serves as an answer to why for everything that you're building, but also provides a rich and deep well of inspiration, not just for your gameplay, but for your actors, your mission, your audio, your tone, voice, and how to fill up the empty spaces, because people are going to come to places that maybe, that's not part of the main mission, but they should find something there that still breathes about the world, and your world building can provide inspiration for that. And from there on, we also have to think about, okay, how is this world going to feel and how's it going to look? So I'm just going to give you a quick impression of all the mood boards we created. Well, not all the mood boards, just a few of them, because we made many. And there's text in it that's too small. You're not supposed to be able to read it, but that's just how the original mood boards were, to illustrate like what I liked about these things and what I didn't like and what I wanted for the world to be for this vision. And we did a mood board for pretty much everything. So the style of the walls, how the building should look, the structures, how the structures should feel, how you should pick through things, what it should make feel, the doors, what it should be made of, how we integrate the trains into the living spaces, how they live there, the slums, what I liked about slum structures, what I didn't like about slum structures. You get the idea. And we made it for every little thing so that the people that were going to build this, which was just the four of us, actually started building this. That's me, Tim, Leonard, our most trustworthy worker, and Ward. We started building that actual space that we worked from these mood boards. And we did the same thing for the living spaces. We had this whole long list of mood boards. the working spaces, and the tech, which I'll come back later. So now we have the visual design, we have our world building, and now we come to the actual design of the game. We knew we wanted an open structure, which means non-linear. Okay, that's an easy thought, but how do you do that? And the one thing that kept coming back to us was, is this adding towards the feeling of that there's always more to explore? We came down to, is there, if players play this, they should feel like there's always something more because the world is big, or there's always something that they didn't see yet, or it's an event that happened. And then your space, even how small it is, will start to feel bigger. And spaces that might not be the main mission to go through, we can fill them up with propaganda, propaganda of the world we created because of the world building with a lot of inspiration, and they come across little secret missions or little nudge that leads you to a different place. And then the most important part, I think, of our game that really breathe make it a living world are our actors. We have multiple live actors, and they fulfill different roles. Most of them are your enemies. You want to hide from them. You want to get away from them or flee from them. But some of them might also be on your side or something in between, depending on what you do. But actors always serve as a consequence to the player's actions. So, and these consequences can be good or evil or helpful or detrimental. And one thing I do tell my actors is if you're in the game and you think or you have a chance that players are watching, that's your chance to tell something about the world of the Greizers or you as a Greizer where you are. There's always something you can do or show that adds extra narrative to make the world feel alive. Okay, now we have our second thing. Now we go to the third design pillar, which is horror. We knew we were going to build a horror game. Now, I came to this definition of horror when I did my master's. Horror is entertainment to experience the emotion of fear. Let's distill that. So it's a form of entertainment, which means we're doing this for pleasure. We want to experience this. There's a whole discussion on why we're doing this. We can maybe talk about this later. I did a whole research about that as well. But what's important to remember is for entertainment purposes also means it should be safe. And the importance of safety is very, very important in a horror game because the more safe your players feel, the more open they are to experience fear. To just give an example, like I wouldn't normally jump from a bridge, but if I know it's safe because I'm attached to a bungee cord, it's more likely I would jump from a bridge. So we have very strict safety rules, and they're very important for the players to bear by, but also we give them tools to make it less scary if they want to, or opt out, or change it, because they should always feel like, okay, I should not really be hurt during this, or really be scared, like it's real emotion of fear, but not too far. It should still be for entertainment purposes. Now, the second part of horror is the emotion of fear. We try to experience the emotion of fear. And fear is a primary emotion. And there's a lot of models about fear, about the secondary and the tertiary parts of emotions. But what I found really interesting when researching this is that fear is more than just being scared or having jump scares or shock. Fear is also about, being in panic state or mortification or being alarmed. It can be terror, but it can also be anxious, nervousness, apprehension, dread. And there's so many parts of the fear emotion that is part of a horror game that you experience far longer than just, the shock. Disgust is also part of it. And maybe you can feel contempt towards something or be averse to something or really repulsed by something. You also have some overlap with anger and sadness if we talk about suffering, like agony or hurt or torment. Now, I don't recommend actually tormenting your players, but what could be interesting is to torment the characters that your actors portray. And they show those feelings. So the players that can see that and feel some empathy about it and also feel a little bit of that torment themselves because they see it happening. And that is interesting for a horror game, maybe to explore. So what kind of horror should we pick for our game? We knew this was going to be a long experience. We had this whole world we created. So it should be a bearable thing. And every horror game we design, we try to focus on one of these emotions. Obviously, it's going to be more than that. You're also going to have other parts of emotion, but one that we feel that it should be focus of the game. And we chose apprehension. And apprehension is to feel anxious or nervous about something potentially unpleasant in the future that might happen to you, or a consequence that's dangling above your head. And that's what our game is really about. There's always a consequence dangling above your head, depending on what action in the game you take. Hopefully more of that will come clear when we do the live demonstration, which we're getting there soon, because, okay, we have our vision, we have our 3 design pillars. Could we actually build this? This is me and Alex on the wagon. I just pitched him this whole thing that I just told you guys, and I asked him, what do you think? Can we do this? And yeah, what do you think of it? And he told me, like, yeah, it's cool, man. It's a really cool idea, but yeah, I don't think you can pull it off. It's too ambitious, you know? And you see me in the last thing, I was like, are you kidding me? We already, you know, we kind of went for it already, you know? It's a little bit too late. So, yeah, I mean, did not totally listen to it, but it did keep in my mind, okay, we have to be really careful and prepare, because it's gonna maybe be a long ride. So we started playtesting, started building our prototypes with all the tech, and yeah, he was right. It was a lot of headaches. The tech didn't work properly for a long time. Because of that, players were very frustrated. Players continuously also, because of the open world design, came up with new ways of play that we did not prepare for. And a lot of times when we felt we made a step forward, we also took 2 steps backwards. So yeah, the only solution was perseverance. You have to keep on going. It took a lot more funding than initially expected. Doubt started creeping in. I think every entrepreneur can knows how this feels, like, you know, is this the right decision? It always felt like we're just about to be there around the corner. But we did keep believing. We just kept faith, like this is going to work out, and we kept improving. Eventually, it took 9 play tests and big iterations over more than a year for the gameplay to be fun again. So this was a very long perseverance. Like, players were super frustrated all the time, and then after some eureka moment, it came together, and again, it was fun, just like the first prototype. And then we got our next level player equipment. That's the result, and we're going to give a little demonstration. So I'm going to ask Tim to come to the stage. Oh, we need the track, yeah. So Tim is wearing our track sleeve on his arm. This is not all the tech, but it's part of the tech. And we build a pulley clamp, and we have this track that we call a railway line, or a track from the Greisers. And they use this to transport all kinds of goods and cargo, and to infiltrate into this code. Yeah, you have to do this as well. Now let's see if we can attach it. So the red light means you're properly connected to the track system. You're attached, you're safe. Now, once he disconnects, he will hear a timer. He's not wearing the earphones now. But I'll do the countdown out loud for you. You have 8 seconds. And I want the audience to guess what you think will happen if that countdown reaches 0. All right? 8, 7. What? Louder, louder. 6, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. That's the alarm going off. We pitched down the volume because otherwise it's really annoying, but it's a high-pitched sound, and that will mean the Greisers know one of the transport got derailed, and that doesn't get derailed unnoticed, so a Greiser will come to investigate, and you have to make sure you're hidden before the Greiser arrives at your scene. Now, you also have to remember one thing, and I always ask this to pro players, what do you have to remember when you hide? And they'll say, like, yeah, to not be seen. I'll say, okay, that's the essence of hiding. And they say, maybe quiet, that's also important. But the most important thing is to be attached again to a track, because otherwise the alarm will keep going off, and they'll find you anyway, which means you have to look for tracks that lead you to places where you can hide. And that is the basis of our game, and obviously it will get more challenging over the course of the game, but yeah. Thank you, Tim. Give him a small applause. You're still having the shivers? All right. So, what did we learn through all this? Players continuously came up with new ways to play, especially in the beginning. And they were fun, and they were wild, and it was so cool as well. But at the same time, a big portion of our players struggled to make the necessary steps to get to the more interesting parts of the game. And this was a problem. So we realized players were actually too free. They needed better onboarding and better directions. And yeah, also our story, it was a non-linear story, it was too complex. Most people didn't get it, even though they liked the writing and the idea, but they just didn't get it. So, our solutions. We decided we're going to open the world up more gradually. So we start, always the same, starts linear, and it opens up depending on the actions they take. We also, and this is one of the latest additions we did, we increased the presence of a guiding character. So there's a character that's on your side. He cannot do anything for you, but he can provide you with the right questions, or you can give him information, and then he can do something for you. But you always have to provide him with, or her, with this information. And this definitely really helped to bring the people more together. As were central events, we have central core events with the most important story bits, and centralize the story delivery. So this guiding character, if maybe somebody was on a solo mission and experienced something only this person experienced, and there was an important piece of information the rest would need, this guiding character could go, oh, I'm glad you're back. Tell me what happened. And then make sure that this person told the whole group what happened, so everybody, you know, got this piece of information that could move the main story forward. And of course, the tech. Now, this is hard to explain, to show you all the tech, but yeah, I don't want to spoil everything, but we had to decrease the input options for players. We had to make sure that the player had a simple interaction and let the tech do the work for the players to provide custom feedback. So depending on the context where the player was in, if he was far in the game or made a lot of progress or was doing a solo mission, the tech would provide custom feedback for this specific player. So every individual player had an individual tech system. I hope that makes a better sense, but that was a lot of work. And the end result was that we have main missions. These need to be done in sequential order, and we have optional missions. And these can be done in any order, and these are open for players to experience, because some players are better or faster or can do more. And then we have these optional missions to make sure that everybody has a 200-minute experience. However, of course, harder missions only unlock after progressing main quest far enough. And on top, of course, we also have our actors who can improvise a lot of things and influence the game and system depending on what a group would need. And then we have Demise of the Greisers, our final result. And I'm going to show you just a little quick. We've been working on a trailer to give you a quick impression. Thank you very much. By the way, all the people you see in the trailer are friends and family of ours, so we always do it on a long budget. Yeah, so how has the journey been? It's been a constant improving journey. Still, we're improving, and we're seeing new things that we can do better because there's so much potential in it. We also needed to reinvest a lot, and finally it's paying off, so that's good. I do mean pioneering. It means novelty, which is good, but it also means, yeah, a lot of new territory, obviously, so a lot of unknowns. But yeah, it's not unlike a video game that also you have to keep updating and improve. Now, our audience, before Demise of the Greisers, we didn't have much escape room players at all. We mostly had gamers, theater lovers, adventurers, theme park goers, horrorists, locals, and now more and more escape room players. And the last group keeps on growing. I feel because the escape room industry has been expanding and growing a lot and exploring different avenues, and now we just overlap more and more. But because the last group keeps on growing, we also had to change the game a little bit accordingly, because they come up with different expectations, because there are many type of players. I feel the green ones kind of cover most escape room players. You know, they like puzzles, they love exploration, they love completing stuff. Some of them, that's why in yellow, you know, social, doing things together, and some of them like horror thrill things. But if you look at the game we have 0 puzzles. You cannot complete it at all. Like, it's no way you can see everything. And this definitely was a challenge for us, because we had escape room players coming, expecting that, and feeling disappointed because we could not provide them with that, because we have skill improvement in our game, and we have a lot of, you know, thrill and action in our game, and it's a very physical game as well. So that was also something for them to get used to. But it also brought a lot of benefits. By being novel, you stand out, so that's nice. It gave us lots of free PR and recognition. I mean, we've been on a lot of radio shows, newspapers, national news even. Yeah, a cool recognition because people have not experienced anything like this before. We also believe the concept will age well because, yeah, it's still new. It's going to be new, hopefully, in 5 years still. But yeah, we'll see what the future brings. And it also created a lot of new opportunities for us because, as you remember, we do game design for a lot of different things. And this is like our perfect business card to show off. Oh, and the best thing, we did this all in-house, so we gained all this knowledge. So it's nice that we can hopefully build something like this again. Now, how does the future look? We have some exciting announcements, I believe, because we're doing a new collaboration. Together with Alex from Logic Logs and Entourage, we are expanding our Red Eye universe. So the Red Eye is an organization that's central to I Can Hear You, to Nightmare of Evelyn Shadow, and also The Mice of the Grisers. And together we're working on a new game that is going to be in the Red Eye universe. And yeah, we're going to be excited because we're building towards something bigger that includes all of it. And talking about that, we're going to bring back I Can Hear You, which is going back early 2025. We found a new venue, we signed it, so it's going to stay for longer this time, so that's really good. We're really excited about this. And we're already actively building this, so if people have not experienced I Can Hear You and were enticed by that trailer, it's coming back, so that's cool. I would love to ask you to follow us on Instagram or Facebook because we might need your help to convince the local politicians that this is worth saying, that it's something that is cool to have. And yeah, I mean, that will be really appreciated. And that's also actually the end of my talk.
Thank you so much, Yaron. That was fantastic. Has anyone got any question?
I had a question about the mood boards. You scrolled through them pretty quickly. They're pretty interesting. Was the content that you used to build those stuff that you made in-house, or was that sort of compiled research from other sources as you fleshed out the idea?
Yeah, mostly other sources. So I'm still some part in the video game industry. I do sometimes some consultant work, and I still play video games, and it's a big inspiration. Most of those mood boards maybe recognized that were like part of Mad Max, also the Metro games, Metro Exodus, Metro 2033. Some of them were from the Flock, our own game, so there's some own stuff in there, but mostly you just research and find. And yeah, it's sometimes easier to remember stuff that you create yourself because then you can put it in there. But my desktop is full of screenshots and things that I think, oh, that's interesting, I should save it, and then I can use it whenever I need it. And it helps because if you have a visual to illustrate what you want to build, it really helps the rest of your team also understand, okay, this is the direction you want to go to. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks. It was really interesting to hear about the iterating process and how much you changed it over time. How much of that is done with live audiences as opposed to sort of friends, family, colleagues? And how do you manage expectations when it's not necessarily in its polished finish?
Yeah, so for sure, during every playtest, we tell them this is a playtest. It's not, everything is you're going to be frustrated. We tell them we're preparing for all the emotion you're going to get. It's not finished. You'll see a wall, and it might literally tell you this is a wall, don't go through it. So we set the lowest of expectations possible to prepare them. And we tell them as well, we want your honest feedback. That's important to us. Don't be nice to us because we're friends or family. You're not helping us. Tell us really what you think, what you like. Those are the most important things. And after you feel like, okay, we're at a level that it's nice to show off, you invite strangers or people that you know are friends of friends or people that you don't know of. But you have to make sure that you realize who is playing. Is it part of your target audience? So sometimes if, you know, for example, our moms are playing, that's not really, you know, much relevant information because they're never going to play this game and they're going to be just proud of you. So yeah, you try to make sure, like, hey, we know what kind of vision, we know we're going to make a horror game, we know we're going to do a video game like, so try to invite people that also would be interested in this kind of stuff, but also sometimes invite players that, you know, might not per se necessarily normally do this, but hey, maybe they also like it, or maybe they also, because yeah, there's always going to be friends who are going to tag along that some person, you know, invited all of them, didn't tell them what they're going to do, and then brings them along for the ride. Can't tell you how many times that happened, and they're just shocked, like, what did you bring me along for? But it's also good to know that during the playtest, like, hey, but you have to make sure that you understand the audience that's playing it.
I was really interested in your process of coming up with the core gameplay loops, because in video games, that's like you're doing the same thing again and again, but you're kind of unlimited in the concepts you can come up with in video games. But in live action, you're a lot more limited. So what's that process like of coming up with something that people will be happy doing again and again and again over the entire time?
Yeah, that's true. I've felt that for real life. In games, video games, it's easier to come up with and test something. And I guess that's part of it why Alex told me, like, I don't think you can do this in real life, what you came up with. You know, it's going to take a lot of work. But literally, I did the same thing. I really do it like approach it like I do a video game. So I really thought, okay, the game mechanic, we want to do something with trains. Always do abstract thinking first. If we want to do something with trains, what is a train? How can we use those elements and connect it to something bigger? We also tried, trying to build tracks. And okay, like how can we make a game of that? That wasn't fun. But you test it. You test as early as possible with the most simplest things. And this thing we tested with just, like I said, red ropes, just musketons bought from store. And we told the players, like, okay, you can only be attached to this. We had referees, people, families standing in the line. And as somebody sees you detached, they will count. And if it's within those 8 seconds and you're not attached, he'll like, and then a failure. So we just fake it, you try to fake it. And then we had to build the tech to facilitate all that. And that was the hard part.
Cool.
I was just wondering if, because there is a game loop, but you're in a real world space where you have to actually tell people to leave so more people can play, which we all know from escape rooms. How do you come to a satisfying or like a signposted narrative conclusion or mechanical conclusion?
Yeah, that was a hard part because indeed in the beginning, because of this Wild West phase that we were going through, players would end the game, the time would be up, and there would be very big differences in how much they progressed through the world. So we did a lot of improv. We had like several scenes and scripts, and we always fought to create some kind of ending that we felt was cool, was a bit of an ending towards what they experienced. But yeah, I don't think that work was the best way, because we still have players felt like, yeah, it didn't feel like we actually reached the end or an end, especially escape room players, they felt like I wanted to complete something. And that's when we introduced the extended version. So we have 2 versions of our game. And the extended version actually allows at least to get to a complete story of your main missions. So your main missions will be concluded. You have a definite answer to the main questions and your main story, and you have the big events that finish it experience. But in between that, we had a lot of optional missions. That was the key to our success, I believe, that depending on how good the players were, they could have done a lot of extra things, but they were optional, but still cool moments, but not central to the climax or the ending of the story. I hope that answers your question.
Sorry, hi. You mentioned during the playtesting that people were finding new ways to play, I think was the phrase you used.
Yeah.
Can you just explain what you meant by that and what people would like? How were they just inventing wholesale new games, or?
They come up with different things they wanted to do or wanted from the world. So we kind of went into a little bit like LARPing or improv territory. But also the tech. The tech was used in different ways. And for tech, you always want tech to work in a way the players expect it to work. And for example, we centralized story bits. So that track sleeve, the thing that you're wearing, that's also for us a device that helps make sure that all players get story bits through audio and text, so they can read along, they have an audio performance, and they can get these cool messages about the story with them, all players. But also, then we would come up with a way that, okay, players split up, and somebody would receive that message, but it was not a right time for this player. He's hiding for a grind, so he's not listening at all, etc. So we thought, okay, that's annoying, that's detrimental to what we want. So we built it that the message could be skipped, and we built an inbox, so he could re-listen to that inbox whenever he wanted. But if players are doing that at the same time, and there might be, some player triggers a story message there, another player sends it out there at the same time, you also don't want them to play through each other. So we also had to build an audio cue system so that they wait for each other. So you can imagine all these steps that we had to go through, as examples, what you asked, to make sure that it works as expected, but also, doesn't hurt the experience to achieve what we wanted.
Great, thank you.
Hi. Great talk, by the way. Thank you.
I was interested, you mentioned in passing that you used a video game difficulty curve in a lot of your live experiences. I wonder if you could elaborate on how you adapted that to a live show.
Yeah, like I said, it starts with the tutorial. And what we noticed for the Mice of the Crisis is that we had to extend that tutorial in an immersive way. So we really had to pace out the challenges more. Yeah, how can I give an example without spoiling this? Let's put it this way. We follow kind of like a hero's journey or on a film script. Like, you learn about the world, you're slowly building up. We have this quite fantastical world about Greiser, so it asks quite a lot from the players. So we have to really build up that mystery. There's a long onboarding. You have tech that explain. You have to learn how it works. Players will suck at it at the beginning, so you have to make it very easy. And then at some point, you just had like your first encounter and moments of that world, and at that point in time, you're at rock bottom. You've lost a lot of things. You heard it's like a Metroidvania. You lost all your items. You don't know. You have to relearn everything. And from there on out, you start slowly to get better. You learn some new things. You gain some items. You unlock some new things. You can progress. You learn about the Greiser. You learn, for example, hey, they're behaving this way. Now I can do actually this. So you can start to do a little bit more dangerous stuff in fiction, or you dare to do a little bit more, and that's how you build up your character. And some players, they go different paths, and they become this very central guardian of the group, and other players, they become like a operator of the control room and do standing people, and that's very cool to see. And yeah, I hope without spoiling, I can give you a bit of an impression how we did this.
Thank you.
Any more?
Maybe one practical question. I quickly Googled it, but I'm not sure how many teams can play the game at one moment, and if there are any mechanics to avoid meeting these groups together, or if it's possible to meet.
At the moment, it's only one team, so it's intimate. We built the experience, though, for 2 teams, and we stopped finishing the second part because our contract's up. So we're really fighting because that second part is like 70% done, so we really want to finish it. And we built all the tech and system. Also, the 2 groups can play at the same time, see a different take on the world of the Greisers, have these central events be important to both teams, but they have to look out for different things during those events. But there's 0 overlap in terms of the level. So you might see them in a distance, and it again adds to the world. The world feels bigger. Oh, there's the players there. I see something happening there. But you can never actually reach them. So it's all, a little bit like a maze. And teams are 5 players, by the way, max.
I'm just curious what are the horror emotions that you were playing with in the 2 other pieces you've talked about?
And I Can Hear You, this was full terror. This was really like panic and terror, like this, very intense. There was 0, there's just a few moments of breathing rooms, but it was really like very intimate, and it was an intimate personal story. Probably gonna tone it down a little bit for the new release because it was something. And for the Nightmare of Evelyn Shadow, that's interesting actually, because we were 3 designers. I don't think I did the normal approach that used this, because it was me, Alex, and Maggie doing the design together. But it was definitely more of an eerie, foreshadowing vibe where you feel like you're walking down the wellows. You know that you're going towards something bigger and bigger, and you're unsure if you can prevent it or not, but you know it's coming, you know? That's,
I think we described it as like the walk towards the gallows.
The walk towards the gallows, yeah. Put it in like...
We described it, we talked about it as like the walk towards the gallows, where you know it's going to end bad, but there's no other way than making the next step.
Yeah, you're fighting it, you're struggling, you're trying to change the course, but you realize, no, I have to get to that bad ending.
Can I ask a quick question then? If it's not cheap, how much, if at all, do you curate the experience depending on how the team is reacting in the moment? Do you watch them and do you pull back on actors' move? I know why you're laughing.
Yeah, a lot.
It's a loaded question, but do you do that?
Yes, we do that a lot. We definitely personalize so much depending on the group, because we really want the group to be the heroes and influence what's happening. But also, they come at so different levels of how much they dare or how afraid they are or what they want to do. Like, to give an example, I think this is a cool story. We had a group email us, and it's like, hey, we're interested in doing your experience. By the way, we're all pensionadas, so they're 70 plus. It's like, oh, shit. Okay, let's call them. I had a phone number. His name was Harry. It's like, hey, Harry. I explained what to do, and then fully expected him to say, like, yeah, this is not for us. And he said, oh, sounds amazing, Jeroen. Let's do it. It's like, and he said, like, yeah, it remembers me. I did played in an escape room a year ago with our group, and yeah, I didn't understand anything of it, but it was beautiful because the guy explained it, and it was such nice. And I was like, oh boy, it's gonna be something, because this is physical. You have to climb in trains and crawl, and it's like, okay. So we changed the whole thing, and it's cool because our tech allows this to change a lot of things of the difficulty. So first off, they don't have 8 seconds to switch. They have more time to switch between tracks because we needed to know for sure they needed more time. But also, as I was serving as the guiding character at that point in time, I was like briefing them for the mission. And already when I was, lowering my voice a little bit because it was getting a little bit tense, he immediately said, "You got to speak up, son. I can't hear you." So I was like, it's like, this is going to be something, Improv. We said, okay, the guys they work trains, a lot of loud machines, a lot of industrial noises. So they're kind of deaf. They don't really hear us that much, so we can speak. And then immediately, because they were still smart and sharp, they said, okay, but how are they going to hear the alarm then? You don't have to worry, right? It's like, no. The alarm will trigger an alarm in their control booth, so they'll come. They'll have a flashing light. They'll come, but it'll take some time. But we really have to hide when the alarm goes off, It's like, oh, okay. So I did a little practice session with them to see how fast they could hide. And I counted it, and it was nearly a minute before they all were hidden. So the first time the alarm went off, I heard through my ears like, Johan, he's like a big Viking guy, one of our actors, and I heard Tim, I think, say like, okay, Johan, slow down, they're still not hitting it. Johan, wait, you have to wait more, and then I told, and then Johan came, and it was a scene, and they all were looking, and it was cool, and they loved it, the theatrics, and then I told them, like, okay, I did a count how long it took for them to arrive, and it was like about a minute, so we have a minute before they can hide, and they said, oh, smart thinking, you did a good job, so we have 1 minute before we can hide. So, okay, we do this. They have more seconds to play. And then I realized they really love the theatrics. I see they really love the scenes. And I saw them like, peeking and everything. It's like, be careful. And he said like, careful what for? I'm almost dead, son. I don't care about behind, So they just, I said, okay, they love the scenes. They love the show. So we played really on that. Focus less on the tech missions, and really change the approach. And at some point, they deviated completely from the main mission because they met a character they really wanted to save, and it was a tormented soul, and it was cool. The character joined, and there was a psychologist in that team, and she said, like, leave me to it. We have a very traumatized individual here. I know what to do. And she went using all this psychology, and our actor, she loved it, and their mission became to save that character, which was beautiful. So, it can definitely take different courses.
Thank you. I think we've actually reached time, but what a wonderful story to end on. So thank you again. I think everyone here will thank Jeroen in his wonderful talk.
Thank you.